our desire will be fulfilled.
But then at least they should stop doing porn too, right?
You would think so, and some do stop. But there are those who say, okay, then I'll start watching a different type of porn, increasingly rougher, hoping that finally I'll get an erection from it. And so they switch it up or spend more and more time with it.
And does the inability to orgasm also develop as a result of porn addiction in men?
Yes, absolutely. In very, very many cases. So they can maintain an erection for hours, but they can no longer climax.
Isn't it because they've worn out the receptors?
Yes. They've exhausted them.
Yes. Overstimulated.
Yes.
Flooded.
Yes.
So I suppose some kind of withdrawal is needed here.
A diet? Exactly. Well, this is again a general piece of advice. I really don't like these general pieces of advice because it's different for everyone. What works for one person might not work for another, and it can have the opposite effect. Of course, generally I would say yes.
What is the recovery rate for female and male frigidity and inability to orgasm?
It's much easier to treat men.
Is it somehow more emotionally ingrained or interconnected for women?
No, it's more societal. Men are allowed sex, sexual pleasure, and many sexual partners, and basically everything related to sexuality. For women, it's not socially accepted. Even in today's modern world, this is still the case. A man can talk about how many partners he has and boast about it, but a woman cannot. It's a completely different judgment. Because of the double standard, I'm not saying anything new. I'm practically going to use cliches to repeat, so the enjoyment of sex by women was completely forbidden in the past. So this knowledge was inherited by women from their grandmothers, great-grandmothers, etc., that a woman cannot enjoy sex. Therefore, a woman should not initiate sex, and any woman who enjoys or initiates it is considered a whore or loose or something like that. So it's definitely not a commendable label. That's right. Even though we live in a modern world, this is still present in the collective subconscious. And as a result, it affects many women. Now, this is what needs to be resolved. For a man, it's much easier because it's allowed, even desired and expected for him. It's a thing for him to enjoy sex, initiate sex. It's a kind of masculine principle. But interestingly, the same does not apply to women. The same harmful old sayings, like, just let it happen, you'll be free sooner, were invented for women. So this also shows that in the past, for many women, sex was not enjoyable at all. It was a kind of duty.
There is a saying, I have always heard this from men, that if a key opens every lock, then it's a master key. But if a lock is opened by every key, it's a bad lock. This is the double standard you just referred to. If a woman enjoys sex very easily and gets emotionally involved in a sexual situation very easily, in certain cases, if her promiscuity means she also desires sexual variety, then she is labeled as a slut, and a sense of shame is associated with her pleasure, which obviously leads to self-hatred, or makes it impossible for her. So either the woman comes to hate herself for her own nature, or it makes that kind of pleasure, which is associated with shame, impossible.
Or she is a conscious woman, and she says that the fact she easily enjoys sex. And what else did you mention?
Well, that she has greater promiscuity, requires more variety in sex, and in certain cases, easily gets involved in sexual situations.
Easily gets involved, that's right. So she might say how lucky she is because she doesn't have the sexual problems that many of her female peers do. So she can say this too. It's really a matter of perspective.
And it's your task to guide her to this understanding if she has complaints, to learn to appreciate her own nature and her fortunate constitution.
to free them from many inhibitions and suppressions. That's right. Which they either cause themselves, or have been imposed on them by society, or through upbringing, or simply inherited from their ancestors.
Statistically, what are the most common problems that women and men who turn to you face?
Erectile dysfunction. Second, premature ejaculation. Third, pornography addiction. Fourth, relationship problems that manifest in sex. So, a sexual problem that develops between the couple, usually it's that one desires sex while the other less so.
In such cases, is it often necessary to involve the partner in the therapy sessions?
That is definitely useful. But there are those who are absolutely resistant.
And what are the common complaints among women?
As I mentioned last, it's often the case that the woman desires more and the man less, which is actually very common. Aren't you surprised? I would expect some surprise. People are always surprised when asked about this in company, and I mention it. Obviously, it can be the other way around, where the woman desires less and the man more, which is also a common issue, and lack of orgasm. Lack of desire is not very usual. It's temporary. But of course, it exists, and temporary, but it does exist. And for women, issues arising from the man's sexual problems also come into play here. So when a man struggles with premature ejaculation, obviously the woman cannot reach orgasm because of this, at least vaginally, as this is almost impossible. According to the literature, it takes 20 minutes for a woman to achieve orgasm vaginally. So if premature ejaculation occurs in 2 minutes, this is not going to happen, at least not with the penis. Let's say this is according to the literature. Let's leave it at that, as there are many different organizations. But this is the general consensus. So a man should be able to last for 20 minutes, but compared to this, premature ejaculation is very severe and very, very common. I must add, it's very important regarding premature ejaculation. A woman who knows in advance that the man won't last can let herself go in bed. And she knows in advance because, for example, they've already been together once, or the man has been like this for a while. And from then on, the woman starts to exhibit all sorts of symptoms. So it won't be good for her either. She won't have an orgasm. She won't even desire it anymore. She avoids the man's advances, etc., etc. So when we talk about issues with female orgasm, lack of it, or any kind of blockage, it's extremely important to examine the man's role. Whether the man can extend that relaxed state for the woman in which she says, now I can let go. I have an hour for this. And now I know the man is pampering me. It will be good. And in this relaxed state, the woman can reach orgasm and enjoy the whole experience. But if there's this feeling that, the man is about to lose his erection or he's about to climax or whatever, then the woman will not be satisfied. So there's this aspect to the whole thing as well.
What is normality in sex? Of course, everyone takes themselves as the standard, thinking that what is normal is what is normal for them, what they enjoy. And then naturally, the expectation is that everyone else should be as normal as they are. But of course, normality doesn't just mean what the average person isn't scandalized by, or what situation they would say they wouldn't be part of, thus labeling it abnormal, or what they would still be part of, considering it normal, especially if they would like it too. But it also has another meaning, which is the bell curve. The center of the bell curve, which is the quantity is characteristic in the light of large numbers. In this sense, it is possible to define what is normal in sex, what is normal, and what can be considered an extremity.
You asked the question in a tricky way, making it difficult to answer. Yes, what is always normal is what two people consider normal. What does not cause them any discomfort. So, for example, if they enjoy sex that involves pain, but it's good for them, then it's normal for them. So there's no need to say it's not normal. The important thing is that two people, by consensus, mutual agreement, they do what they want with each other, and that's good for them. And it's still good afterwards. And they don't have any unpleasant feelings after finishing the act. That's what's normal. What is not normal and is becoming more common is a sexless marriage or relationship. That's not normal, but people are starting to consider it normal. There's a lot to debate about normality anyway. Many people consider the standards of a larger community to be normal, even though it might not be. And it might be that only two people are doing that certain thing normally, and the rest are not. What the majority accepts is not always what's normal. So if the majority is already living in sexless marriages, and let's say everyone will live like that, I still won't say that a sexless marriage is normal, because it isn't.
And what is normal to leave a sexless marriage in pursuit of sex? Or to maintain a sexless marriage for the sake of preserving intimacy? Because, a sexless marriage also fulfills a lot of emotional needs. A sense of security, intimacy, tenderness can be received from a partner outside of sex as well. And if a person feels that they wouldn't risk this in order to find sex elsewhere, but how long it takes for that intimacy to develop, or if it develops at all, is unpredictable, then it's not a realistic decision, or it cannot be considered a normal decision for someone to compromise with their fate and remain in a sexless marriage.
Compromise is never a good decision, and it's never a normal decision, and people often regret it later. They feel like they've wasted years on something that wasn't good. No, in a sexless marriage, the normal thing is to restore it and have sex again.
And you say this with such confidence, so in every case, a sexless marriage, in therapy, sessions, with attention and sexual awareness, it can always be restored. So you boldly state that you should go to a sexologist and solve your problem because it can be resolved this way, and it works for everyone because it's a process that, if you carry it out, will lead you to regain sex, and you will have sex with your partner again.
We can never make such exact statements, not only in this field, but in many other sciences as well, that if you always follow this path, you will always get this result. So we don't say things like that. The reason I am confident is that I have been working in sex therapy since 2015, and I have helped many people. This does not mean that I have helped everyone, not by any means. Okay, so a lot depends on the clients, their attitude, what comes to light during therapy, whether they do the homework, if something else comes up during the homework, etc., etc. So when a couple comes to me with a problem, whether they will certainly return to their original state, or even better, cannot be predicted in advance. But it is certain that it will be better than the state they are in at that time.
In a sexless relationship, what kind of homework can you typically give? What can help?
There can be many different tasks. One is to avoid conversations about certain topics that are like sex killer topics. Another is to reduce intimacy.
Reduce it?
Yes. So no caressing, no kissing, no hugging, no cuddling whatsoever at all. That improves the... Yes. It stimulates sexual desire.
So it's about how hugging, tenderness, and kissing can cause partners to lose libido.
They can lose it. In a sexless relationship, it's definitely like that. So, of course, it's different when we're talking about a healthy relationship. Then intimacy is perfectly fine, and it should be there. It's a fantastic thing. But when a couple's sexual life is already damaged, that's when these restrictions come into play, which need to be followed to succeed. Intimacy and tenderness eliminate aggression. Aggression is necessary for a person to have sexual desire. Many people condemn aggression, even though aggressive people often drive the world forward. So not those who do nothing and sit idly by and commit one omission after another or compromise, you like that word you used earlier, but those who truly want to act. But how can they act if they have no energy, no desire, no tension within them? Aggression is triggered, among other things, by tension, even sexual tension, and this can eventually culminate in a sexual encounter. But if this is always covered up, glossed over, if the parties in such a relationship are constantly pampered, then what is it that stirs up the tension? The sexual tension? Nothing.
What are the sex killer topics?
Oh, everything that involves logistics. What time are you picking up the child from kindergarten today? What should we have for dinner today? Where are we going shopping and what for? How do we plan the weekend? When should we visit mom, dad, mother-in-law, father-in-law, etc.? So these are the everyday grinding things or work problems, of course. These do not benefit the relationship in the sexual sense.
And in contrast, what kind of quasi role play do you suggest for them where they are not in the status where their sexuality has failed, but rather you place them in a type of relationship where they find the other person's personality and presence exciting?
You have to imagine it as if they are just getting to know each other. When you meet someone new, you don't start talking about boring topics like that. Like what time I did something, what I had for lunch or breakfast. So these are the trivial topics that often come up in a long-term relationship. You don't talk about such things, nor do you discuss your problems, like work-related issues and the like. You don't burden your date with these because you want to charm them. Ideally, you should do the same in these situations. Try to forget these everyday logistical things a bit and bring up deeper topics. For example, if you could meet only one famous person in your life to have dinner with, who would it be? Things like that, so that they can get to know each other better and more deeply. I understand that they know each other, but often this acquaintance is superficial. I often find with couples that they actually don't know basic things about each other. And it comes out in therapy. And when you get to know someone more deeply, you also love them more deeply. And from there, sexuality becomes easier. Or the masculine things, the feminine things, so that these can emerge. These everyday grindstones, somehow sweep these away, especially from the point when they become parents. From then on, in many people, the man, I'm now a man, I'm a woman. From then on, it's father, mother. So this is not good.
Who gives the libido?
Who? Especially since my colleague talks about this, they shouldn't talk so much about it. This shouldn't be the only topic, like what's going on with the child or what happened at school. That's not very sexy.
How long does normal sex last? I understand that it's not the sexologist who should say, or some kind of academic body that should dictate how long normal sex should last, but surely there are statistics on this as well. There is a bell curve here as well. And the two extreme values, the extremely long sex and the extremely short sex, have a smaller distribution, lower frequency. And there is a middle range in the bell curve where so-called normal length sex can be defined. How long is this?
Good. Again, I would say that according to the literature, it's 20 minutes, but that's just the intercourse, including everything to really tune into each other and make the whole encounter intimate and cozy. I would say about 45 minutes. And this should include foreplay and afterplay as well.
men are typically not masters of foreplay and afterplay. They like to, how should I say, rush into things with women. Women generally require both foreplay and afterplay.
Yes, by the way, this is also a generalization, as many women do not require foreplay at all. So when I said 45 minutes, Maesna, it can be 45 minutes of pure intercourse without any foreplay or afterplay. Just that during penetration, the mutual pampering of each other's other sensitive areas happens, and not before or after penetration.
Yes, I can understand foreplay. What does afterplay mean?
This is the intimacy somewhere, like cuddling after sex is what you mean by it. Yes, and by the way, from this, there can be a second round or third or fourth, so afterplay should not be neglected. Also, if a man doesn't have an ejaculation, it shouldn't be taken so tragically, because then he can go for another round and another and another. However, if he does ejaculate, he might get tired.
How often do men feel the need to get back into action within half an hour after climaxing?
If they enjoy being inside a woman's body, then they desire it for that reason. This statement might seem strange, but I always ask my clients if they truly love the female body, if they truly love women. And of course, initially, everyone quickly says yes. But when we delve deeper, it turns out not so much. And they don't want to be in it for long. They don't enjoy it that much. Even if a man has an erection, he doesn't enjoy it as much emotionally, or something bothers him about the whole thing. And then it's like, so it doesn't last long. But if he meets a female partner with whom everything is fine, and there are no disturbing factors, then the man wants to prolong the sex, because if something is good, we do it for a long time, right? It's that simple. Then it's not about checking off 5 minutes. If I enjoy something, I want to enjoy it for a long time. This is my message to all men struggling with premature ejaculation. Oi. If you truly enjoyed sex, if you truly loved the female body, you would want to be in it for a long time, not finish in 2 or 3 minutes, because that's not such a great joy for you either.
Thank you for this conversation, Somorjai Martina, sexologist, and I hope it was insightful for the viewers as well.
I also thank you very much.